Good morning, friends. Welcome to another episode of MedWell Unscripted. We are so excited to be here today. We're going to have a great conversation. Today, we're talking about women in cannabis and getting started in the industry. And we have such a special guest with us today. So I'd first like to do some introductions. My name is April, and I have Emily Waxman, our Director of Community Outreach here at MedWell. Good morning, Emily.
Hello. Good morning.
And our special guest, Ann Brum, who is the owner and CEO of Joint Venture and Company, which is the first Massachusetts state certified Portuguese women in business, Portuguese business, which is awesome. And it's an enterprise where it's a boutique business. And I'm going to actually let Ann talk a little bit more because she's absolutely well-versed, better versed than I am. But we're really excited because she really, her concentration is development in the cannabis industry. And she's, we're lucky at MedWell. She actually was part of our team at one time. And so we're really excited to share what she's been doing. And she has a lot of experience in the cannabis field and kind of has worked her way up into her own business. So welcome, Ann. How are you today?
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me, Emily. It's good to see you, and it's good to be back with the gang, the OG crew here.
Always good to see you, Ann.
So let's get started. Yeah, I want to, Ann, tell us kind of a little bit about Joint Venture and where you're at now and kind of what you're doing, because I know you're doing some amazing things especially with women in the industry.
Yes, and it's definitely not something that I go at it alone. There's a whole team and a village behind our mission and vision here at Joint Venture & Co. So yes, and then thank you for having this platform to share these stories. And the cannabis plant really affects so many different aspects of our lives, from policy legislation to product development, education, awareness, advocacy, to palliative care, end of life care, preventative care. And it connects us globally as well. So I just love the cannabis plant, wellness in general, and I'm so excited to be here again. As you were saying, Joint Venture & Co. is the first Massachusetts state certified women business and Portuguese business enterprise as a boutique business development agency serving the cannabis, hemp, and wellness market. So in Massachusetts, the Supplier Diversity Office certifies minority, women, veteran, and disadvantaged business enterprises and manages these programs that help more diverse firms participate in the public bidding arena. So one of those programs in the Supplier Diversity Program, and it was established in 2010 to promote diversity in public contracting. So we haven't quite dabbed our toe in securing public contracts, but we just got that certification in August, and it was a process. But I'm thankful because I think it really just positions health and wellness, including plant medicine like cannabis, in the mainstream with these sort of state contractors. And it's been a really interesting experience thus far, and learning more about what it means to put a bid in for a state contract. It's a lot. So in Joint Venture, we established in 2018, and I'm so pleased to say that MedWell was our flagship client. They were the first to support us as a women owned and operated business, and shout out to the ownership there, John Waxman, and the leadership there with Rob, and also the team with Tori and Kayla and Miss Emily. So thank you to everyone who's doing their work. And then also in your Florida team, your New York team, very, very fortunate to have MedWell in the market providing patient card services. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Ann. That means the world to us. So thank you.
Yeah. So really what got me connected with the plant was I come from a traditional medicine background. My parents are immigrants from an archipelago of islands known as the Azores. So we really didn't grow up with conventional healthcare. It was very much based on folk medicine, what was passed down through, the internet, but really was, women passing along what was working and what wasn't working, and what we had access to on the island, which was from the earth, from the sea, and then, and then even spirituality speaking through prayer, through different practices outside of the physical. So I grew up with it already. And I think what really got me more into sustainable self-care was after the death of my father in 2018. He was 58 years old at the time, and it was like difficult to see him pass away like that. And I just thought like, okay, I'm going to learn what it is to feel well, to be well, and to live my life and to honor everything that my family has gone through to give me this opportunity here in the States to make the world a better place. And so that was really the start of my development of wellness, spirituality, sustainable self-care. And that did lead me into hospice care. And it also led me into preventative care at Brigham and Women's. They have an integrative care department. They have a practicum there for Reiki practitioners. And so I got to see the full spectrum of acute care settings, long-term care settings, and where the placement for these sort of complementary therapies is what typically it's coined in conventional healthcare environments, had a place in this sort of healthcare system. And so I was working in hospice, and I was developing a statewide program, our volunteer program, and it was a very comprehensive role. It included a lot of public speaking, a lot of training, a lot of recruiting volunteers, vetting volunteers. We had a lot of compliance on the back end, a lot of SOP development, a lot of organizational development. And I was laid off from that job and then was recruited to work with a dispensary here in Massachusetts. They're a vertically integrated operator. They were medical at the time, and started late 2015, early 2016 in their retail department. And we were very, very teeny tiny to begin with. And there was only 2 open in the state, including us at the time. So we really got to see the whole gamut of patients and the experience from folks who knew about cannabis or familiar with plant medicine, and then folks who had no idea what they were walking into. And I think the experience in hospice and also in conventional healthcare, like at Brigham and Women's, it gave me some insight on how to meet the patient and or the caregiver where they were at. Obviously, we're not licensed healthcare professionals. We're not giving, treatment plans, let's say, but absolutely to give them insight on the methods of administration, the product variety, the cannabinoid variety, the terpene variety, based on the inventory that we had at that time, which was also, something that could be a challenge. So, and then I decided to leave that role and was there for a couple of years, and then was recruited to work with MedWell Health and Wellness. And we hit the road running with them. And, luckily, we were great to go for a good solid year plus with them. And then I was approached by a dispensary here. They're a vertical integrated medical operator, and they needed some of my help. They saw that what we were doing in the space. And in Massachusetts, there is this law or compliant or regulation that if you're, say, a W-2 employee with a patient card provider, you cannot be gainfully employed or gaining money by a vertical or by a dispensary. So that was really the time for me to decide to serve the plant and having as much access for the people. And I'm so thankful that MedWell understood and supported us along the way. And here we are coming on 2021, and I can't believe it's been 2.5 years.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
So that's an amazing story.
I know. I love that story. It's fantastic.
So sorry for your dad. There's clearly a special place, and that's inspiring that he kind of on the wellness journey. One of the questions that I have was, so you mentioned that you had your work at Brigham, but then you ended up your next move was a dispensary. What kind of, clearly it sounds like where you were originally brought up, cannabis was part of the wellness program, right, before you came to the States. So what kind of training beyond that did you feel like you had to get to learn more about the product? Because I think one of the things, and the reason for my question is people think cannabis and they're like, oh, I can just go in and I use cannabis. I know everything about cannabis, but that's not really true, right? There's so many aspects of the cannabis growth, or the laws, the regulations, the testing, all of those things. So what did you do to educate yourself more about the plant and how it helps in the wellness process?
Man, I dug in deep. Like, I can't tell you how many times articles, reading up. There's a lot of local leaders here in the New England region that absolutely helped me find credible language and dialogue so that I could help these folks feel informed and that they can make a confident, decision on what was right for them. Some of those resources included Dr. Stacy Gruber here at Belmont. She has the MIND program, MIND. And I can't believe that I was able to work with her last year. And actually the last event we had this year in January at Babson College. But she's an incredible resource. I also learned from, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN special around, Charlotte's story, and also learned from Dr. Dustin Sulak out of Maine. He's healer.com. Those are credible resources. I also went to PubMD and started informing myself on different existing research out there, which then led me to Israel and then understanding how they've gone and medicalizing it. But there is a lot, and depending on the area that I was focusing on will determine the area of research and knowledge. There really wasn't any training for cannabis education or becoming a cannabis professional, but I would say there were a lot of transferable skills that all of us really have to bring into this industry. I mean, it's really transferable skills. So my experience as in law as a court stenographer, my experience in nonprofit development through training at Boston University and New and Wellesley Hospital, like all of these pieces really help to solidify the strengths and the value to bring into this space. But a lot of learning, a lot of reading, and a lot of experience through myself, and also learning from the patients, the people. I would say that was probably the most important, their trial and error, their feedback on what's worked and what hasn't.
Sure.
I think that's like a running theme that you hear, because we've spoken to other guests in the past too, that because the cannabis industry is fairly new when you think about it. And so there's so many folks out there that are looking to get into the industry, but they don't really have that background. So it's really wonderful that you reiterate that you took so many of the positions that you've held in the past and placed that into where you are today, which I think is so important. So it didn't necessarily mean that you had to have anything in the cannabis background to get where you are today, which I think is nice that we present that to everyone out there.
Yes. And think about it, there's more universities that are coming online with like a full 4-year curriculum, and they go over so many different aspects of it. We have University of Vermont that has programs in a more clinical sense. So it really depends if you're doing clinical research, academics, policy, legislation, there's all sorts of really funding is a really major thing. And that's where I really love the whole aspect of business development, brand development is it's being a startup in this space. It's a industry full of startups. It will be for some time. And how can we best support one another in raising that bar and having us have, I don't know about the term best practices, but being like conscious practice, being intentional about why you're in the space to begin with, and really identifying with that and having that truly be our North Star for us here at Joint Venture as to where are we going, who are we serving, and why are we here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, Johnson & Wales just announced like 2 weeks ago, they're actually one of the first 4-year degree programs with cannabis. So they have a growing program as well as the policy piece and the regulations, and it'll be the first 4-year degree. So it's kind of interesting how it's evolved, and now it's
it's really exciting. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I was going to say, I believe the University of Michigan already has a full 4-year.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah. But for New England, Johnson & Wales. Yeah.
And it's exciting that this next generation will have that opportunity to start really looking into that field for themselves and being able to use that as a major, if that's something that they would be interested in, where before that wasn't really anything of an option. So very exciting.
It is.
So, Ann, can you share some of the challenges? So you've kind of worked your way around, and now you have your own venture, so to speak. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges of being a woman in the industry, because I know predominantly it's been male most of the kind of the way through, and talk a little bit to that. And if you feel like there's been real challenges.
Oh, definitely. There's challenges for both men and women, but historically with women in general, just from an equal playing field, it's evident. I don't have to go really truly into that. And it's not a stranger that it's going to be in a emerging industry like this space, in the health and wellness space. For me, the biggest challenge has really been like myself and getting in the way and the confidence and, that the whole imposter syndrome, these things that are real that we go through and kind of stepping into the arena, as Brene Brown says, and really owning what we're doing and being truly committed to the process. I don't think women are afraid of, obviously, like giving birth literally to humans, but also ideas and to new ways of doing things. So
Analogy.
Yeah. Women are just get out of our way and let us do the work. Just like with the cannabis plant, she produces the flower. That is where the most medicine is. And to follow her lead as to where things are moving towards and making the whole world a better place to live in is really meaningful. But I would say for me, it's been really my mindset in stepping into a boardroom for Le Men or having conversations, especially when it comes to compensation and value-based return on investment with the sort of work and that we're bringing into the space. So it's really all right here. It's all in here and it's all in here. And it's, sure. And then let's keep it real, ladies and men. It can definitely be cliquey and that, served its purpose back in high school, but it's lame and it's small and you can only do so much by staying in this little tiny circle. It's, I don't know, let's expand our mind. The world's a giant place and there's a lot of work to be done and we can do it much better when we're working together.
100%. Yeah.
So, I know one of the things you're working on a lot of project with women in the field. So can you talk a little bit about some of your mentors along the way and kind of who you're working with today? Because I think, it's one of the things where if you do some research, you can find their names. But I think that it's sometimes women get under the radar, and I would love to celebrate those mentors that you work with today.
Yes. Well, I mentioned Dr. Stacy Gruber, and that was through a collaborative comprehensive project around a veterans health and medical cannabis study. And we developed its communication, branded out this community development arm of it known as the Cannabis Advancement Series. So, but specifically here in New England based, hi, Ryan. So specifically in Massachusetts, we're working with the state's first responsible vendor trainer. She is a woman of color and she's, I'd like to say a growing friend as well of mine. Her name is Ashley Boucher of Quality Control Analytics. Her and I are also partnered with the Women of Color in Cannabis. They're a New York City-based 501c3. And we're working on a very collaborative project in positioning more women period in the workforce, but also women of color in the workforce and ownership and leadership. That will be coming out live, launching in January, February. So check out Women of Color in Cannabis called It's Enunciated Woke, but it's WOCC. Another woman who's doing awesome stuff, we've done great things together, is Brit Smith. She is the podcaster for the Different Leaf, the podcast. And she also is a writer for a local news station, and she's also an awesome human being. So I'm enjoying both working with her and getting to know her as a homie. We also have Beya Jimenez. She did a great feature on women in cannabis here in the Boston region. She's very much advocating for housing here in the state, especially in the city of Boston. She too is an immigrant, I believe, from the Dominican Republic. So I'm a big fan. Hey, what's up, Brit? Yeah, if you haven't downloaded, Differently the podcast, definitely shout out to them. And I'm just really going into the women, but I also want to note that like men are also our allies, including white men. And, yes, we want to empower women, but we also need our men to have the language, represent us when we're not around, and like giving them the side eye of like, did you really try to say that? So like, my book music, the publisher, Different Leaf Magazine, we're collaborating quite a bit on different projects coming up, like Plant Market, which is a learning festival around cannabis, hemp, and CBD, which we have a meeting tomorrow about exactly when, but these sort of projects are important. And, and also the great team at Bass, those men have been really great in positioning women in leadership, as well as one of our clients, Howells, with Peter, who I know is on your show. He is an ally, as well as colleagues and consultants for joint venture, Stephen Mandilli and Wayne Smith, who are focusing on our Division of Government and Veteran Affairs. So I just want to plug in that men are our allies, but these are some of the, we do need to work together, but hell's yeah, I want to shout out these women. Like, let me keep it moving here. So Commissioner Shalene Title here for the Cannabis Control Commission. We were able to have some fun pre-COVID in collaborating on being on the host committee for the Boston Center of Arts. They have an annual fundraiser, and we actually worked with Ethan Vo of Homegrown 13. He is landed the contract to do the art at the Cannabis Control Commission in Worcester. So
that's great.
It's awesome. And then we also have our good friend up in Maine of Tastefully Baked, and that is with Janelle, and she's an awesome collaborator. We've been able to create a product that I'm not finding here in Massachusetts. And as a patient of reciprocity in Maine, it's been great to collaborate, to have some high CBD, full spectrum product that I would love to continue to have access to here. Also here in Vermont, we just did a New England's first yoga and cannabis retreat. And we took all COVID precaution. It was small, it was sold out. Everyone had to come with a negative COVID test. But I'd like to give it a shout out to Tesha Buss of Good Commons Retreat Center in Plymouth, Vermont. Thank you very much, Tish. And then also nationwide, I've worked with Kiera Juster. She's an attorney for the Last Prisoner Project. She just got some great feedback because they just got the longest serving.
I saw that. That was really fantastic. Yeah, just amazing.
Yeah, and like this is the power of women when we come together, right, and absolutely. Like any support I was able to provide to her, I was all about. And then also in New Jersey, we have Patricia Patton. She's known as the Canna Boomer, and she's really positioning the conversation of cannabis within the Canna Boomer in the boomer generation. And she's a thought leader in the space. She's saying, what's up? Hi, Alexa. That's Alexa Rebus Blends, by the way. Joining Alexa. So I really love Patricia. We work with her here at Joint Venture when it comes to strategic communication. So love working with her. I mentioned the Women of Color in Cannabis. With that project with Women of Color in Cannabis, we've also are working with Danielle Schuhammer of the THC Staffing Group based out of Illinois. They're very much focused on having an equitable workforce, positioning folks of all backgrounds to have a seat at the table when it comes to this industry. And another wonderful woman we're working with is Sammy Niti Tomo out of New York City, and her company is known as SLN Consulting, and she's working with Joint Venture on optimizing our operations internally. So here's another tip for women in the industry. When you're a small business and having these processes and procedures like not only a checklist, but automated with AI on the background. That's the type of work that we're doing with Sammy, just to streamline our stuff. And then also there's a great app known as Hi-Curious on Google or on iOS or Google Play. And Laura Mendel is the founder of that. And essentially it's a community of folks who are about the plant, about wellness, and really seeking to have cannabis as a wellness supplement. And I host a show on there known as One Plant, One World, where we interview, live stream guests from outside of the States. And we talk about how cannabis is affecting the culture locally there. And we've had wonderful guests from Poland and Berlin, South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been amazing to learn how the plant is working with and affecting the development of the communities there in all aspects. And then worldwide, another, just my last two I want to say is Donahue Woodman. She is the head of biz dev for a global hemp-derived pharmaceutical company known as Cannabis Community.
Wow.
And she has a great podcast known as Women of Influence. Full disclosure, she had me on there. But the owner and the CEO of Cannabis Community is also a white man, but he is leading the way of positioning more and more women of color, of diversity, at the leadership, at ownership. So shout out to David Perry. Thank you very much for doing that. And also Susan Chappelle out of Squamish, British Columbia. She's a VP of Research and Development for a company known as Haven Life. That is more focused on psilocybin microdosing in the country of Canada. And I really enjoy collaborating with her, supporting her, learning from her. And lastly, and not least, is Joint Ventures Business Advisor, which is Jessica Garan. And all of these women are all on LinkedIn. They're all available. They're all about positioning women to rise together and to do work. Like, we're here to like get things done.
Right. I love it. So do you sleep at night, Ann?
I don't think very much.
Like I was thinking, to really do some wonderful things in this space. Like we only get, I think of the experience of end of life with my father and experiencing end of life in hospice. It just really honed me in to be like, what are we doing? So this has been over the span over a couple of years, but like to really identify what's important to us, because time management as an entrepreneur and you're managing everything on the back end and developing it is really important. And self-care, I can't say more than enough. Like self-soothe, self-care on a daily basis is from taking vitamins and, eating blueberries and lots of cannabinoids and, psilocybin and different type of medicinal supplements that are of mushrooms and like all sorts of things that really help me show up and be what I can be. But also I do take breaks. I definitely meditate quite a bit. My husband and I and our dog walk up quite a bit. We go away as much as we can. We were just in Martha's Vineyard recently. So like I do definitely perform and very productive, but I also know how to chill out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good that you know that healthy balance for yourself, for sure.
Burnout is real. Like that is real. And I think if 2020 has shown us anything, that with COVID, with the Black Lives Movement, with this election season, with everything, like taking care of our mind, body, and soul is a daily practice, and it really is everything. So it's not like, it's like enjoying the process as we're going through it, the development of it, as it's unfolding, and to really consciously be a part of the process has been something that we're constantly reminding ourselves here.
Absolutely.
So the last thing I want to say is that we have a great intern, Alyssa Lentini, and she's been awesome on our branding and communication back end. So I just want to shout out interns rock, they rule, and
That's great.
And I think so friends, we dropped, Ann was kind enough to send ahead of time all the links to these powerful women and men in the industry. So definitely go through the chat and learn more about them. And what a great opportunity to educate yourself more in the cannabis field and what.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things we talked about was, what do you need to kind of get going? That's a great place to start. And there is lots of choices there. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. I'm just beginning. I even thought of our colleague here, Dr. Mary McNabb of the Cannabis Center of Excellence. She's also a great resource. We've collaborated directly with her and her organization for the Veterans Health and Medical Cannabis Project. So shout out to Dr. Mary McNabb. And also, in helping us on the back end, I forgot to mention Samantha Everett. She's a women-owned and operated branding agency out of the state of Wisconsin. They're called Pretty Lethal Designs. They worked closely with Joint Venture pre-COVID on developing our brand messaging, our unique selling proposition. All of these things are really like our web development is Sherry out of Take One Daily, Take One Daily, I believe, out of California. These are all very useful folk to participate here. So nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely should give a big shout out to Nicole Snow. You're right, Tori. Yes.
Yeah. And then even as an accountant, there's Charlotte Cathro out of in Central Massachusetts. She's an accountant, female leader doing her thing here. So I'm excited about these women getting a shout out.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of talk a little bit. What kind of tips would you share? So you've shared your story. Clearly you've done some great networking and relationship building. Kind of what's your word of advice to make an impact and a presence in the field for others that are watching today?
You hit it on the head. The relationships is everything. And if you're not consistently being consistent and offering what can I do for you? How can I help you show up and participate in this space is really important. And I think having a solid relationship with yourself, not to sound, woohoo or corny, but for real, that means a lot. And knowing who you are and why you're doing what you're doing is a very grounding thing for me. Some things that I found to be really helpful is, to just get started. You're just get started. As my colleague Stephen will say, the invisible hand kind of has its way of leading you to the right place, right time, and right circumstance.
True. Yeah.
So and your mindset is really important. I found really identifying, this is what I'm doing. I'm completely capable. I'm incredibly deserving. I know I can do this. We're doing this together. That sort of mindset has been really helpful. And three things I'd focus on as far as when you're developing yourself as an entrepreneur, as a leader in the space, as a woman or women identified, is create. You're coming up with an idea, you're creating a solution, a service, a product in the space, how you connect as well, the relationship is everything. And then collaborating is really important. And again, that has to do with being a solid human being, being responsive, being responsible, being consistent, those sort of things help really elevate our messaging and our mission here at Joint Venture. So that would be some of my nuggets or my blueberries I'm going to drop.
No, and I think sometimes for some, it's a little bit of going outside of your comfort zone, right? That's usually where the possibility happens, when you start kind of taking that of confidence in yourself and going outside of that.
Yeah, well, think about it. With our start here with MedWell Health and Wellness back in 2017, no one was really doing these statewide educational campaigns, essentially, where we were able to bring the resources, including the patient card services, but also the education, the community together. We're the first in the state. So really women are leading the edge. And I'm so happy that, the leadership at MedWell, John and Rob, was yes, let's do this. that really helped position, I think, MedWell to be the go-to trusted patient card provider, both within the public, within our Massachusetts community, but also within industry. So like, yes, we that was uncomfortable. We had to go through some growing pains in that, but it was like our first, pop-up was in Pittsfield. And then we went everywhere in the state, including Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket, where these communities did not have access to information as well as patient card services. So it was laborious, it was labor intensive, but like it was what was needed. And like, we weren't afraid to kind of put the system in place and meet the patients where they were at.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So where do you see the future of the industry? Cannabis, it's funny. I was listening to a conversation. It was a conversation about regulations, and somebody was saying, oh, well, it's one of those industries that's going to die, which clearly I don't believe that, right? There's so much opportunity. The future of, cannabis going and kind of the role that women will play in that development.
Well, definitely moving more towards the mainstream integration as health and wellness. If we're seeing anything that's happening federally in legislation, we're going to eventually have interstate commerce. That's going to be a thing, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, it's going to happen. Yeah. And then followed by global commerce as well, where we'll have import-export agreements here in the States, like other countries like Canada already has, with a slew of European countries that have that sort of legal framework and financial framework set up. So I think us as ladies we're already positioned and already leading our household, our family when it comes to health and wellness, as well as where we make that investment of our time and our income into. So we're the ones who are really like, okay, this is where the movement is going, and this is how we can set this up. For me as women, I think we can really be ahead of it and really kind of see what's coming down the pipeline and start setting up the systems, the processes, the talent, the supply, the demand, the skills that are needed to have a consistent availability of product, but also this consistent conversation and dialogue. I would love to see some kind of mainstream, seriously, no doubt, reality TV show following folks in the space and really starting to bridge the health and wellness with plant medicine and showing like whether you're as a patient, as a consumer, as an ancillary service, as someone who's in a plant touching business, that, or as an advocate, as a legislator, as a lobbyist, as, a state agency regulator, it's coming down the pipeline here. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to see us kind of lead the way and kind of joining together. I'm excited to see more coalition of women doing amazing things. But yeah, reality TV show. I think that's, I seriously think that's how people are gonna like on the mainstream. I think that's how they'll really be like, oh, okay, it's like, right. And the MORE Act just passed, which has its, there's some flaws in it as far as needing a federal license. And if you've been previously incarcerated or convicted with a cannabis offense, and then you can't participate. So I'm not really like psyched about that, but still, shout out to the advocates who saw the language and regulators who were like, the MORE Act needs more to it, literally. But we're seeing more of a public understanding and appreciation here in the States, but also globally. I think we get really siloed into like our community, our state, our country. People, this is happening at a global scale. Like it's not just about us here. Research has been happening for decades here in Massachusetts with Dr. Stacy Gruber, including MRI scans of the brain with cannabis use and cannabinoid treatment. But also it's been happening in Israel with phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials around medical cannabis. So come on, it's coming, like it's already here, but expand beyond us here.
Right.
Awesome. So what's next with you? What projects are you working on? Because I know there's probably not so many. No. I'm kidding.
We got nothing planned.
What you're doing and kind of what's coming next. And I know our awesomeness, Kayla, has been putting in your information down.
Yeah, shout out to Kayla. Yes.
So,
Yes. Oh, Lynn, you're right there. Real Wives of Wives and like the Real House. You're so right, honey. Thank you for saying that. Well, shout out, that's my husband. All right, so 2021.
Sorry.
It's cool. We're focused. We have another yoga and cannabis retreat that's going to be happening. Where it's right now it says April, but we might be pushing it to June. We have Plant Market that we're discussing to have go live in perhaps November. So these are pretty platform building, brand building type of opportunities for joint venture and co. But as far as what we're doing and the clients that we're serving and the projects that we're involved in, is really centered on developing the supply and demand. We're seeing a lot of consumers and patients wanting a variety of products, and we've listened to them. So we'd like to, we're positioning and focusing joint venture to partner with more and more vertical operators as well as product manufacturers in developing the brands and products that they're bringing into the state, whether it's through contract manufacturing, licensing IP, and then allow joint venture to really develop that brand in the market in meaningful ways. So I call it the supply and the demand. And to complete that trifecta is really focusing on our government and government affairs, specifically with veterans as well, because policy legislation affects the whole supply chain anyways. So we're kind of seeing this like effect here of how can we help on the supply chain side and then allow us to really develop those brands, missions, and stories in the market, and then how policy and legislation all affects that, because these brands should very much be concerned, aware, and woke on what's happening at a local and federal level with legislation. And we'd love to position them to invest more into those sort of initiatives.
Great.
Amazing.
Well,
Amazing.
Thank you so much for sharing a wealth of knowledge. We're so excited to have you.
I know. And honestly, I cannot thank you enough for giving us your time today. You are such a rock star in this industry, and it's just been an absolute pleasure to have known you for these last few years and see the work that you're doing. And again, like I said, it's just an absolute honor to have you with us today. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you, April. Thank you, Emily. And thank you, MedWell and the whole team. And thank you to the plant.
And Kayla, for all your help today. Friends, if you are catching the replay, feel free to leave a comment. We will absolutely get back to you. And please know, if you are looking for your recertification or your medical marijuana certification for the first time, stop by medwellhealth.net. We have offices in Massachusetts, Florida, and New York. So we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Thanks.
Thank you. If I could just say, you can find us at Joint VCO on all major social platforms. You can also link up with me on LinkedIn at Ann Brum, or in Portuguese we say Brum. And we'd be happy to connect with you there and collaborate and talk about the next projects. Thank you, Demetria. Actually, we're working with Demetria on the students for, let me think here. What is the SMART for Student Marijuana Alliance for Research and let me think the T. Sorry, Demetria, I'll put it in there if you can think of it. But we're also working with a project on bringing the young people into industry and helping them.
Oh, that's great.
And ready.
That's fantastic.
It's called SMART, SMART. And it's studentmmj.com. So just another, so Student Marijuana Alliance for Research and Transparency. I stand corrected.
Love that. That's
coming
fantastic.
out 2021.
Transparency.
Thank you, Demetria. Thank you, everyone.
All right, guys. We'll see you in 2 weeks on
care.
another episode of MedWell Unscripted. Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone, and happy holidays.